rise in body or spirit and join me in singing 391, Voice Still and Small. 391, Voice Still and Small.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor. My name is Reece, and my pronouns are she and her. I am a member of our congregation's lay worship leaders program. If this is your first time visiting, thank you for joining us. And please attend the newcomer welcome in the Redmond room after the service. It's the first room on your left as you walk out of the sanctuary. There you will learn more about UUAA, who we are, what we stand for, and how we engage and connect with people everywhere. Our welcome extends to all of you streaming this service online. We are so glad to have you with us. If you are a newcomer, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. Of course, there's a survey. There is always a survey. It can be found at uuaa.org/newcomer survey. The Friday Fun Night Halloween party is this Friday, October 27th from 6 to 9 p.m. Pizza dinner starts at 6 p.m., followed by crafts, a mummy rap game, candy roulette, costume parade, and the Why Are You Haunted House. We end the evening with a viewing of It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So please RSVP at the links. We have an SGD bulletin, the weekly news, or you can use the QR code you will find on flyers around the church. If we need volunteers, please reach out to fridayfuninfo@uuaa.org or email Stella at uuaa.org if you have questions or you want to help out. And next Sunday is the annual Halloween service. We are all free and encouraged to wear costumes, wigs, makeup, but not so much the full face coverings. We'd like to see your faces. This is all in good fun, so please keep in mind that this is a multi-generational service. We don't need depictions of weapons or any costume or decoration that might be too scary for the young ones, or me. The First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor has been a liberal Ann Arbor tradition since 1865. The UUAA has played significant roles in the evolution of liberal religious thought throughout the 19th, 20th centuries and continues today. We have long been deeply engaged with social justice issues. To name just one example, our work was essential in the journey to marriage equality. As we begin our worship today, please take a moment to center yourself. Hear the truth. Feel the love. Right now, right here. In this moment, let us be at peace. We are gathered in community.
Many years ago, I remember hearing a story from this podium about a UU family meeting that has always stuck with me. The kids had misbehaved at school, and the parents called a family meeting to talk about it. Well, the kids brought with them their family chalice, and when the parents asked why, the kids said, "Well, we really hope that you bring your best selves to this meeting." Does anyone else remember this story? Actually, side note, there was a bit of a mystery surrounding the origin of this. I was searching for it, and then the help of some religious educator colleagues and sleuths, we do know at least that Glenn Thomas might be the source. Whether he wrote it or whether he found it and relayed it to us, we don't know. Stay tuned, I'll find out. Anyway, it's such a great story. There is so much wisdom there. We don't always bring our best selves on Sunday. But when we light our chalice, we do feel that spark of hope, that our experience here will help us be our best selves when we go back out into the world. This cherished ritual binds us together. It reminds us that even as the days get shorter and the weather gets colder, the flame of love and light will shine through. This morning, I would like to welcome Joe Libben to the chancel to light our chalice. You'll hear more from Joe in a few minutes. While we in this space have the flame of our sanctuary chalice to warm our hearts and brighten our spirits, let us celebrate the beauty of knowing that members of our community are lighting their own chalices from places far and near. And I invite our friends in other places to share their locations in the chat, or simply write "chalice lit." Together, let us say these familiar words. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Joe. Unitarian Universalist lay leader Walter Halerz offers this definition of a covenant: the common understandings, agreements, and promises made one to another that define our mutual obligations and commitments to each other as we try to live our faith and vision. Some days, we may walk into this space feeling calm and happy and ready to be inspired, our best selves. And sometimes we might walk into this space feeling helpless or hopeless and anxious, worried, and maybe numb, not our best selves. All of ourselves, our best and our worst, are welcome. The beautiful, messy mosaic of what it means to be human. Our covenant is a reminder that we are here to lift one another up, to catch one another when we fall. So whether you're joining us for the first time or whether you have these words memorized, please join me as we say together, the spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. Our stewardship campaign has made me think about circles and what they represent. When I meditate, I often visualize a circle, the in-breath creating one half of that crescent and the out-breath creating the other. Being in community means that we honor the in-breath and the out-breath. We honor both needing and giving, and how every one of us will be on both sides of that circle at some point in our lives. To share more on the importance of widening our circle, I'm delighted to invite Joe Libben back to the podium.
Thank you, Stella. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace. For those of us imprisoned, circle for release. There's something about being in a circle that reaffirms and reassures us as humans. You are equidistant from the center and from each other. Weight, when borne by a circle, is distributed evenly, no one side carrying more than another. From an architectural point of view, the arc is the strongest structural shape because stress is distributed equally among the arc instead of concentrating at any one point. The strength in numbers, in shape, in fortitude, allows some to carry more when able and those to carry less when able, all holding each other to the same commitment to keep the circle whole. Here at UUAA, we work tirelessly to strengthen our circle of influence, and this year we are working to widen it. Throughout all of our work and play here at UUAA, we stay focused on climate justice, radical welcome, and our anti-oppression, anti-racism work. We organize ourselves to work tirelessly for justice in all areas of our church life. We circle round for freedom, the freedom to search for our own truths, the freedom to vote and participate in a democratic process, freedom to worship or not as we see fit. We hold the simultaneous truths that the experience of freedom is deeply personal and also conscripted by the state and other governing authorities, leading to lifetimes of struggle and suffering. We circle round for peace, for comfort in trying times, for inspiration and hope. In love and compassion, we circle round for peaceful growth, harmony and justice the world over. Knowing full well that the clarion call for peace rings loud and clear across the world, while political and moral crises explode all over our planet, we still hold on to hope for a peaceful, loving future. We circle for release, for those systems that bind and oppress us, those carceral systems and the prison industrial systems, the systemic racism and sexism and homophobia, release from the for-profit healthcare industry, release from the suppressive forces that would seek to silence us and weaken our bonds. A circle is an embrace. A circle is safety. A circle is strength. A circle looks inward and outward, challenging itself to grow with stability, but not get off kilter, to not go too far any which way. Circles are inclusive, but can appear exclusive when viewed from the outside. This year at UUAA, we are taking up the call to widen our circle, to include, through radical welcome and other socially minded endeavors, more and more and more of the world around us. The transformational power of love and peaceful inquisition that lives here at UUAA does reach out beyond our walls. We do reach out to organizations, individuals, other congregations, and other denominations. And we could still be doing more, widening our circle of intent, our circle of care, our circle of love. I've stopped prefacing the following statement with trite as it sounds because I no longer believe this is trite. In fact, I believe it is tried and true. We can do so much more together than we possibly could do apart. I believe this with my whole heart. And I'm here today to ask you to join with us and widen our circle of transformational love. Because I believe in us, and I believe in you, and I believe in what we can do, I'm asking you to renew your stewardship charge for the upcoming church year, increasing it if possible, changing it however you need to fit your budget, knowing that your treasure, time, and talent is what keeps this vital work going forward. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day.
If you could please remain seated and join me in singing 155, Circle Round for Freedom. 155, Circle Round for Freedom.
I don't like peas. When I'm served a plate full of those little green veggie balls, those yucky peas, I will sneakily slide the peas off the plate into a napkin and then scrunch up the napkin so no one will see. And a cloth napkin, that never ends well. Who, me? No, I would never. No, I love peas. I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, and I simply can't admit it. And then I not only don't like peas, I don't like myself. Maybe, just maybe, there's a better way to cope with our personal foibles. Our time for all ages this morning is The Snurtch, words by Sean Ferrell and pictures by Charles Santoso. Ruthie has a problem at school. It is not the students, it is not the classroom, it is not the reading or the writing or the math. It is the Snurtch. Teacher says, "Ruthie, please take your seat." There is her seat. And there is the Snurtch. The Snurtch is a lot of things. Nice is not one of them. The Snurtch is scribbly and scrunchy. The Snurtch is grabby and burpy and rude. And the Snurtch is always with Ruthie. When teacher calls on Ruthie, the Snurtch throws her pencils, and Ruthie forgets the question. During recess, the Snurtch makes rude noises, and no one wants Ruthie to play. And when everyone draws in art class, the Snurtch becomes truly terrible. It hides. It waits. And when teacher asks if anyone wants to share their work, it leaps, it grabs, it crumples, it makes sure no one will like George's drawing. Teacher says, "Ruthie, that is not okay." "Wasn't me," said Ruthie. "It was the Snurtch." No one has a life as difficult as Ruthie's. 10 whole minutes later, Ruthie tries to draw something pretty or cute or happy, but all that comes out of her crayon is unhappy scribbles. The Snurtch is no help. Ruthie looks really hard at the smirch. Ruthie draws. Art class ends. Teacher asks if anyone would like to share. No one is more surprised than Ruthie when she stands up. No one except the smirch. I will, says Ruthie. She shows the class her drawing. Her classmates look. It's what throws our pencils, says one. It's what makes weird noises, says another. It's what drew on my drawing, says George. Ruthie knows the Snurtch wants to run away and hide. I'm sorry about that, says Ruthie. That's okay, says George, and I like your drawing. And then another kid says the same thing, and another, until everyone agrees Ruthie has drawn a wonderful Snurtch. Ruthie likes school. She likes the students. She likes the classroom. She likes the reading and the writing and the math. And Ruthie still has a Snurtch. The Snurtch is still scribbly and scrunchy. The Snurtch is still burpy and grabby and rude. But the Snurtch also listens sometimes. And sometimes the Snurtch is even sorry. And as hard as it can be to sit next to a Snurtch, Ruthie realizes she's not alone. George has one too. I like your drawing, says Ruthie. Thanks, says George.
And now is the time in our service when we sing our children to their programs. I invite all of our young people to follow their teachers, and I said follow, not run ahead, out of the sanctuary as the congregation sings with love and tenderness.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine.
We've now heard testimonials from 3 of our dear ones about what the UUAA has meant to them. I know that every one of you has a story to tell. Perhaps you were on the receiving end of a meal train, or perhaps you made a meal for someone else. Maybe you have volunteered with our children and youth, or perhaps your children built bonds with other trusted adults in our youth spaces. Maybe you found your calling as a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity or Alpha House. Perhaps our chalice circles and group reads feed your soul. From donuts on Sunday to owl trainings, from vacuuming the sanctuary to Friday fun night pizza dinner, we rely on one another to make this place come alive. We give of our time and energy, we offer care and compassion, we teach and learn together. And through it all, we commit to a life guided by love. One more way that we affirm this commitment is through the spiritual practice of our offering. There are many ways to contribute. You can drop cash or checks in the collection baskets as they pass through the rows. And for those that prefer a digital option, you can text UUAA to 73256, or you can go to uuaa.org/giving. However you choose to give, thank you for your generosity. Today's offering will now be given and gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward? As they do, I invite all of you to rise in body or spirit, wherever you may be, and say with me the words of dedication. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you.
Our reading today is called Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindranath Tagore. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way. Into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action. Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. You know, I said this morning I wasn't sure how I was going to follow that. I'm still not sure. It's really, truly beautiful. So it's October. It's my favorite month because it is spooky, it is scary, it is all goblins and ghouls, and I love horror. I love good horror. I love bad horror. I love campy horror. Just about anything horror, I will watch it. And I feel that's something pretty significant for my generation, this love of seeking out things that scare us. For me, the exploration of the terrifying and the grotesque is something that I started to seek out since I was 10, 11, 12. And at the start, the reason was because absolutely 100% it was forbidden. So of course I wanted more of it. I wanted to see what was being kept from me. And there's something very scary. I'm admitting this with my parents in the room. There was this time, which I'm sure they already know this, there was this time between when I got off the bus and everyone came home that I would absolutely sneak watching old, well, they weren't old at the time, VHS tapes of horror, of things that I wasn't allowed to watch. The other reason, and I don't think I realized it then, was because I was so scared of everything as a kid, but not these movies. I felt so proud when I was able to not look away from the screen that I wasn't scared and didn't often have nightmares. What I was seeing on the screen was so different than the life that I lived in my little town. These movies opened doors for me. Does anyone remember the Satanic Panic of the 80s and 90s? For those of you who don't, the Satanic Panic was a term coined to talk about the moral panic that arose from thousands of absolutely unsubstantiated cases of Satanism starting in the 1980s. It was said that a lot of things could lead a youth down the path that led to Satanism. Dungeons and Dragons was a big one. Heavy metal music, horror, and just about anything that conservatives didn't like at the time. Well, here I was, getting into horror. Dungeons and Dragons sounded pretty cool, and I was just this living satanic panic nightmare. Because the more I watched horror, the more I sought out other things that made me feel the same way, that made me feel the things that living in my tiny town couldn't. I began to listen to heavy metal music, songs so full of emotion to channel all that teenage angst that I was thrashing around to my 3 CD player stereo in my bedroom. It led me to the artistry of storytelling with monsters. It led me to early Gothic horror like Mary Shelley. And it led me to friends, other angry outcasts who just wanted to scream at the world and have it scream back, to reach out with claws and teeth and shadows. I still really enjoy horror. Not much makes me turn away from the screen these days, but I've gotten a little softer. I don't like watching long, gory, bloody scenes anymore. But I have found a trope that will get me every single time. So the character, whoever they are, is washing their face or hands in their bathroom. And of course, there's a mirror cabinet. They close that cabinet door, and bam, monster in the mirror. Or they are a monster, or something scary. It gets me every time, even though I absolutely know it's coming. It's a trope. It's been in thousands of these horror films. But there's something about that piece of shined glass or window or whatever reflective surface showing terrifying things to me that always makes me want to look away. The mirror is, of course, a metaphor. Horror isn't just about blood, guts, and masked slashers hiding in the trees. Sometimes it is, not always. Horror has always been about turning the eye inward and seeing the rot that is there. It can be a very pessimistic and nihilistic genre. If anyone's ever seen a zombie movie or The Walking Dead or something like that, it's easy to see what the creators of this media feel about the human race on some level. That given the environment, we will become monsters. We will turn on each other in a heartbeat, and survival will be about who has the biggest gun and the least humanity. Zombie movies don't scare me because I do not believe that humanity would turn on each other like that. Mirrors, though, I believe that they can show us terrifying things. When I was a preteen watching these tapes, I felt fearless. I stepped right over my terror and kept watching, not missing a single frame of film. Was I fearless? Is that what kept me glued? I was an anxious kid, scared of a lot of things. Why wasn't I scared of these horrible things on the screen? Why didn't they turn into nightmares every time? As I was writing this, I began to wonder when my fearlessness turned to courage. Fearlessness alludes to the entire absence of fear. My heart would race, I would hold my breath, and I would brace myself for the jump scare that I knew was coming. But this was a fear that felt so safe in my living room. I didn't feel like there was anything to overcome. Those same sensations are what people that like roller coasters feel, and I wouldn't set foot on one of those. So what's the difference? Thankfully, I am not the first person to ask this question. I did find quite a few papers written on fear and courage, but one that stood out to me was by Stanley J. Rockman, who wrote a paper called Fear and Courage, a Psychological Perspective. And the thing that was interesting in this paper of his is that he studied paratrooper recruits, so very fresh paratrooper recruits. This study broke these individuals into categories. First category being fearless. These were recruits who were confident that they would succeed, confident that they wouldn't be afraid, and didn't really view jumping out of a plane to be a high fear activity. On the other end of that was the recruits who were fearless but underestimated themselves. They underestimated how scared they would be. So they were fearless until they had to jump. And then they found out that they were way more scared than they thought they would be. The third group were the courageous recruits, one who said, yes, we are afraid of jumping out of a plane, but it's what we've been training for. They were aware of themselves and the risks. I think it takes a little kernel of fearlessness to be courageous, with courageous as the end goal. Courage is an action, and isn't that what we are all here for? Taking everything we say into action. That takes a deep courage. To act in courage takes expertise as well. Rockman also talks about astronauts studying their courage during takeoff, another dangerous activity. And they weren't found to be fearless. These astronauts were very aware of how dangerous their activity was, but they had armed themselves with confidence through practice and knowledge. Feeling the fear, but undertaking scientific discovery because it was the right thing to do. That's courage. Practice. Courage can be a spiritual practice. I don't think anyone's born courageous, and Rockman's study comes to about the same conclusion, albeit about military personnel and soldiers. We become courageous through study and training, through practice. The mirror can be a tool to our study. Our terrifying mirrors slowly turning around to show us ourselves. And to practice, we need the tools. The astronauts couldn't practice without understanding the basic foundations of physics, astrophysics, and we cannot practice courage without understanding who we are as people. I'm going to take a moment to do a small exercise with you. This is from Mike McHargue's book, delightful title, You're a Miracle and a Pain in the Ass. I'm going to name some emotions. And I want to imagine you to sit there and imagine yourself feeling them. Take a few moments to get settled. Take a few deep breaths. Close your eyes if you're comfortable to do so. Fear. Anger. Happiness. Sadness. Surprise. Disgust. Attraction. Come out of that moment together. Deep breath. Mike points out that there is guaranteed among those emotions that there are some that feel forbidden to us, one that feels easily accessible, and one that will evoke shame. He says, while all of our core emotions are healthy when processed fully, few people make it to adulthood without picking up cues that some of their feelings are wrong. The most obvious emotion that the horror genre deals with is fear. But shame is another theme of horror. Shame punished by violence, of getting what was coming. Shame as food for the monster, the Achilles heel of even the strongest of heroes. And what in these movies is so shameful? Usual suspects. Sex, money, being a woman, being queer, being a person of color. It's all rather puritanical. Even a genre that subverts so much can't help but lean into these shame narratives. It can get very tiresome. But there's a moment in some of these stories, and whether they intend to do this or not, I think it's my favorite way to deal with shame, and it's in exorcism movies. I love exorcism movies. Like, I love horror, but then there's genres within horror, and exorcism movies are at the top. If it has a demon possession, moody shots of a church in the rain, and a morally gray man of the cloth, I am in. And not just because I grew up Catholic. There's a theme in many of these exorcism movies where the demon, whatever it is, whatever is possessing the human, they will feed on shame. The priest comes in to perform the exorcism, and the demon will reach into their brain and dig around until they find the thing that priest is most ashamed of. They use it to keep the priest unfocused, to make the priest believe that they are not beloved by God enough to drive out the evil, keep them unbalanced and distracted. And it doesn't matter that the thing doing this is literally a demon. The hypocrisy means nothing to it. The hypocrisy isn't the point. It's just trying to keep the upper hand and hold on to its power, to corrupt the good person they are infesting and rot them from the inside. If the priest wins, horror is not a genre known for its happy endings, but if the priest wins, it is when they come to terms with their own shame, when they have turned the mirror in on themselves before the demon even can. The astronauts are courageous because they know rocket science. The priest is courageous because they know themselves. I don't think I can learn rocket science. I could try. I don't think I'd make a good astronaut. But I do want to learn about myself. Before anyone can tell me about myself, I want to know. Before a demon can dig around into my soul, I'm going to sit and look in the mirror and not look away. I'm going to be my own witness to my own shame. And at the best of times, I am terrified to do this. Shame stops us in our tracks. I feel shame through my entire body. I don't want anyone to see me anymore, and I don't want to see myself. Cover all the mirrors, all the windows. I don't want to see a single reflection. When I am ashamed, I forget the good things I've done and the good things I've been. I gain this misanthropic memory, a memory that only sees the negative. I look away. I can't bear looking at it. And if we tuck away our shame, where we think no one can find it, and shove those feelings out of our hearts, people will see us as better people, right? When I feel ashamed, that shame creates this string that controls my whole self. And that string can be taken by anyone and just yanked around. Because I believe something about myself is shameful and wrong, I am deeply at risk of seeing that same thing in other people and believing they are wrong. If I'm ashamed that I'm a sexual being and therefore anyone who is sexual should also be ashamed. If I'm ashamed of the class I come from, of being queer, of being fat, that shame not only perpetuates a narrative of violent self-hatred in myself, but when it has nowhere else to go, it will leap out to other people. That is the cost of shame, the repercussions. Shame and fear go hand in hand. Shame is a lie that tells us the only cure is perfection. Perfect morals, perfect behavior, perfect body. Once we are perfect, we will be happy. The cure for shame is not happiness. The cure for fear is not happiness. Happiness is an experience that we are lucky enough to have along the way. And we will not achieve happiness by rooting around to eradicate these inner demons in ourselves. The parts we fear, the parts we are ashamed of. What is an inner demon but an inner child? What is the monster in the mirror but a reflection of a part of us that was wounded? A ball of hurt and pain that began to shriek and scream inside us, and in an effort to protect itself from more pain, it has demanded perfection. Anything short of that, it turns those claws in on us, tearing us up from the inside. Nothing we do will make this accuser vanish completely. But as I was contemplating the message today, my beloved friend Kate showed me something that she had written for herself. She said, "You cannot eradicate pain and suffering, but you can choose to seek joy and satisfaction." We cannot eradicate pain and suffering, but we can choose to seek joy and satisfaction. The cure for shame and fear is not happiness, but is acceptance. The cure is vulnerability with ourselves and the ones we call beloved. It is telling that shrieking demon that we love it, that we are it, and it is us. The demand for perfection, even for ourselves or for others, is unattainable. And when we fail this unattainable goal, we are consumed in shame. What a terrible, violent cycle. We can offer ourselves, each other, something better than violence. We can offer each other acceptance, vulnerability, and peace. If we do not attend to our fears and our shame, they will rot us out from the inside. And if we do not look at one another and say, I see you, you don't have to be anyone but you when you are here. If we do not say this, then we are complicit in urging that rot along in those around us. We must forgive each other that we fall short from perfection and release perfection as attainable. I love being scared and frightened by a story. Immersing myself in the world of the dark and the terrifying has helped me explore parts of myself that I don't think I ever would have. It is through my own courage, though, my choice to be brave, that I have come to know myself with kindness, with acceptance. But I couldn't make that choice in isolation. I needed others to help me. We can all choose courage, but we cannot choose courage alone. So let us join together to exorcise the demon of perfection and shame from our communities. Let us rebel and riot against the violence of the unattainable. Let us all be mirrors for each other, reflecting back love, courage, and peace. Thank you.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing 396, I Know This Rose Will Open. 396, I Know This Rose Will Open.
Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Let us go forward together in courage, love, and acceptance into our country to stir it awake. Let us be the strength for each other, the mirror for each other, and fill each other with joy and satisfaction. Go now in peace, in bravery, and love. May it always be so, and amen.